Hello, everybody. I'm so super happy, looking forward to this conversation today. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and I'm here today with Cara Silversmith. I think this might be the third or fourth conversation we're having officially, somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere between that. Yeah.
Mhm. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Cara, she is a Scotland-based storyteller and environmental educator. And we have, in our previous conversations, had the most beautiful, I would say for me, I'll name it from my perspective. I have had some of the most beautiful experiences ever.
Oh,
Because Cara, um, this the I wouldn't say you're just a storyteller, right? It's so much more than that. And not that storytelling is a just to begin with anyway, but the way that I experience you in relationship to storytelling and in your relationship to the earth and to the cosmos and to life is so integrated. Maybe that's one way to put it. So
yeah.
when you're telling the stories and when you're even engaging in conversation, it's like my whole being comes alive. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's
and
good
it,
to know.
as we've discussed before, and I highly, highly, highly recommend people go back and listen to the other conversations we've had, including on your podcast,
Yeah.
uh, that it's been uncanny that some of the stories you've told have exactly mirrored my own experiences in Scotland, where my family is from, right? So where my heritage is from. So anyway, there's just many, many layers to why I keep wanting to engage with you and have these conversations. And I'm just super excited and happy that you're here and that we get to do this again and share it with everybody.
Me too, me too. I think our last couple of conversations, they've just, yeah, it's all so connected and so grounded in, my podcast is called of What of the Ground We Are Standing On, but it is so grounded in the earth that we call home, but also the things that connect us, and all those strands that build that web that reaches out, and touches us all in one way or another. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have met you and have these conversations because they do. They dig into the stories. I mean, we talked about this last time, I think, the fact that a lot of the stories that we tell, even today, come from deep time, the time before we were civilized, before we started to break ground and plant on our own and so on, and that we were much more connected with the wild at that point. But these stories still persist. They have changed over time and they've got lots of layers to them. And yeah, from my point of view, storytelling is about finding that heart of the story and bringing it alive for the times that we're in whatever way I'm called to do.
Wow. Yeah, it's I have to stop from crying here. It's like, wow. What I feel is right is that I mean I've said this before, but my family is from the Western Isles of Scotland and we're, Gaelic speaking and that of course as we all know got very stamped out and my
Yeah.
family forgot about it for 2 generations. So it was my great grandfather who immigrated to the United States from Scotland. So it's not very long ago. It's my mother's grandfather. But we didn't even know that he was Gaelic speaking. Like what? This is
Yeah.
not a long time ago at all. Okay. So then all those stories got lost too for me.
Yeah.
Um so when I hear your stories, it literally I can feel my connection to the body of Scotland, like the
Mm.
literal land of it, because my body is from there.
Yeah.
And so, and I can feel the depth of it um coming back alive in me. It's like, wow, oh my God. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I mean, I know you've visited Scotland several times now, and have walked the land. So, yeah, I mean, I think that connection to place is really important. But I was at an event a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about what home meant to us.
Mm,
And I thought that was such an interesting idea. I mean, I am Scottish and I have spent most of my life in Scotland, not exclusively, but much of my life in Scotland. And Scotland does feel like home because it's in my bones, but I carry my bones with me wherever I am. So actually, I am home wherever I am. And I think for me, that's really important to understand that we are connected no matter where we go because the oceans are in our blood, the mountains are in our bones. We are place, and we are home.
yeah, and we are Earth, no matter what,
Exactly.
no matter who we
Yeah.
are, we're all
Yeah.
Earth.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on that a bit last time as well about Indigenous ways of knowing and getting back to that connection, and knowing ourselves as Earth and as part of the world in a different way.
Amazing. So today we're recording this on November 27th, 2025. So we're just heading toward the season of winter in the northern hemisphere, heading towards summer in the southern hemisphere. But so what we were thinking of really dropping into today is winter.
Mm.
Um,
It feels very present at the moment. I mean, certainly last week, yeah, just over a week ago, we got the first snow of winter, and we ended up with about 6 inches of snow. And I wasn't expecting it to last. It started falling on the Wednesday afternoon. And I was looking out going, but it's only mid-November. The ground is still warm. It's going to melt overnight. It's not going to lie. And it lay and it lay and it lay and there is still snow outside now. It hasn't snowed again since Thursday, I don't think. But yeah, it has stayed. And it just made me think, yeah, we are going into that phase. And everything for me as an environmental educator, I teach geography, I teach environmental science as well. It's about the turning of the seasons and the sort of amount of solar radiation, but more than that, it's about the change within, and this sort of idea of actually we do have this circadian rhythm that tells us about the seasons. We are connected in so many different ways. And also, I think in our bones, we kind of come from a world that has fluctuated so much over its history. And yeah, in some ways, the patterns and the cycles are what make us alive. I mean, we have my local loch, the small lake that's not very far from here. I think there's currently upwards of 30,000 geese roosting on there in the evenings. And when they fly overhead, it's just the noise is incredible. But it tugs at your heart and it makes you feel like you're flying with them to a
mm,
certain extent. You can hear them, you can see them, and yeah, the soul lifts. And it's just such a wonderful thing to have these rhythms. And I know when they start to arrive and gather in numbers, in October, I guess they start to arrive here. It's that turning of the wheel, it's that turning of the seasons that's happening again. And when they leave in the spring, it will also be oh, okay, we're changing. And actually, I wasn't going to mention this, but earlier this year I was involved in a project called Wild Wings of Hope, which was looking at the migration of swallows and swifts, from Scotland to West Africa. And it was this idea of the connections and that seasonality of the movement back and forth. And the geese are kind of the other side of that, I guess, because we have the geese here in the winter and we have the swifts and the swallows in the summer. And these rhythms are ones that remind us what it's like to be connected to place and to time and to season.
wow. And this is a kind of a little bit of a random thought, but what's coming for me is the fact that yeah, we think okay, yeah, again, this is a little bit random, but I'm thinking about the the traditions and the stories associated with a lot of the stars and the constellations, such as the Pleiades, and how
Mm.
you know Pleiades and Orion, for example, have very common stories in many, many parts of the globe. And I'm just thinking, like we sit here in awe. I sit here in awe that humans have similar stories, let's say in
Oh yeah.
Aboriginal Australia as they do in you know, indigenous America, like North America or whatever. And and then I'm thinking, wow, but the birds, the birds were going back and forth, you know,
Yeah,
across between continents, and that's always been the case, right? Like
absolutely.
the humans maybe had a harder time flying or
Well,
hopping.
yeah, except we did. We always traveled and we have always traveled. And I think this is one thing that for me, I'm really starting to notice more and more. I think the older I get, this idea that we moved, we didn't stay in one place, and we covered huge distances, not differences. We covered huge
Sure.
distances. I mean, that is our superpower. We look at I mean, look at the amazing animals that we have in this world, sort of the elephants with their trunks that can strip the tops of trees, or the giraffes, or cheetahs that can run so fast. And you look at humans and go, well, we're a little bit, well, puny really in comparison. But our superpower is we can walk, and we can walk for days and weeks, and we can travel, and we can use our initiative to build boats and so on. So we have always traveled massive distances. And I think for me, one of the things I find difficult in our world these days is that we don't get the opportunity to travel. And those people that sometimes do travel then get vilified for making journeys and so on. And I think that that can be uncomfortable, I think, for me, given that I know that we've always done this. But yeah.
I'm thinking about the island where, you know, my family is from, and of course, in many parts of the coast of Scotland, what the Vikings came, Norwegian, you know, there's the
Yeah,
castle
yeah,
built by,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
People
right.
have always traveled. I mean, one of the stories that kind of came to me today when we were talking about meeting and doing this recording was the story of the Cailleach, the old woman of winter, the old hag of winter. Now, the Cailleach itself is a word that has very, very ancient roots. It's oh, I'm forgetting now exactly where it comes from, but it was this cult of Cailleach, who came through the Mediterranean and the whole sort of Iberian Peninsula. And if you go down to Portugal or Portugali, it's about the Cailleach, and that sort of story comes from the creation of the world by this enormous giant hag of winter. And there are stories that connect right across Europe, Asia, Africa, to the Americas. And yeah, I think it's fascinating that we have so many stories and so many themes in stories that are common to all the continents. And that's really one of my areas of passion, is finding the stories that connect all of us. Yeah, my environmental education business is One Nature Education, because we are one. We are all part of this one world and one collective, and we are connected in so many ways. And our stories tell us that we are. But there's obviously the local variations, and they are very rooted in the local climate, the local culture, the local biosphere, the plants and the animals that are around us that make the world alive, like the geese rising on the loch.
Ah, so good. Well, would you like to go into that story now? Does it feel right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is Ah, a wonderful story. And there are, I mean, one thing that I want to share with people, I guess, is that stories are stories are amazing. They have been around a long time and they are passed from person to person. We have this saying in Scotland about them being told eye to eye, mind to mind, and heart to heart. And you're passing them from person to person. And every person that hears a story will hear it slightly differently and take slightly different aspects depending on what they need. We all find the medicine in stories in different ways. And people tell stories in different ways. And traditional stories, I think, are especially magical from that point of view, in that you are being given a story that has come through a storyteller and is being shared through their frame of reference, but you hear it through your frame of reference. And I think that is a magical thing about stories. In the beginning was darkness. Inky black was the darkness that covered everything. Nothing could be seen, not even the stars above that were shielded from the light by the clouds that rolled overhead. The ocean boiled in waves that swirled here and there. So dark and deep were the waters that the creatures that ventured there could not be seen. The storm clouds were raging, and rains were falling, and sleet hit the waves. And into this maelstrom strode the Cailleach, the old woman of winter. She had a face that looked out on this scene that was the colour of ice. Not the ice that you might find in the puddles of February, but the ice that you would find in a glacier. A glacier so big that it held the weight of the world. She had iron teeth that rusted in her mouth, and she looked around with her one eye. And she strode through the waves until she came to a place that felt like home. She could feel the bedrock beneath her feet, and here she decided to make her home. And taking her ice hammer from her belt, she began to sing. And she sang in a low rumble that made the waves part and the rock itself begin to grow. And a dome of rock raised slowly through the waters, swirling and parting them as it rose. And she sang on until this dome of rock raised, and it raised higher and higher, producing mountains, mountains that were the envy of the world. And she sang as these mountains cracked apart and valleys began to form. And when she was happy with the height of the land, she stopped and looked around. She used her ice hammer to chisel the rock here and there, to shape the mountains, some domed to the west and some sharp peaks to the east. She took that rock that she had chiselled out from the mountains and she put it into her apron, and she carried them out to the west to make a chain of islands to protect this new land from the rolling waves of that big boiling ocean. She took the sand that she'd found and she sprinkled it here and there so that there were areas for the seals to pull up and to rest. From her pocket, she took seeds and she seeded the ocean. She seeded the ocean with clams and mussels and cockles and shellfish of all kinds. She turned back to the cliffs that rose from the sea once more, and she called on the seabirds that came in large numbers to land, and they sang her praises. And then she strode to the north and made a series of rocks out into the ocean, islands that could act as stepping stones when she made her way north to the Arctic once more. And when she was happy with them, she turned back to the land. She took one hand and she scooped out a trench running from northeast to southwest, twice as deep as the sea. And when she was happy with her work, she put dimples across the land, making depressions for the lochs and the lakes, the rivers. She sang once more as the rains fell down and filled them. And she sang for the salmon to swim up the rivers. And they did, that silver compass turning from half an ocean away, hearing the call of the Cailleach to come and be part of the land. They swam up, bringing the wisdom of the ocean with them, and they scattered themselves on the rocks at the headwaters. And there, the Cailleach stood and called on the land creatures to come, and they came, the aurochs, the wolves, the bears, the wild boar, the deer, her beloved deer, and with them, in their coats and in their stomachs, they brought the seeds of the plants that would turn this land green and lush. And she called to the birds of the air to come, and they came. First the eagle, carrying in its claws a rose bush, which it planted in the centre of the land. And they, following them, was the songbirds of all kinds, linnets and stonechats, blue tits, and so on. And they chirped and they called. And as the forest grew around her, the Cailleach, the old woman of winter, knew that this would be a good, good land. But she was not finished with it yet. She hushed the creatures and told them that this was just a taste of what was to come, and that they had to be patient because she had not yet finished dancing. And the creatures heard her and began to head south once more as the Cailleach danced and twirled across the mountains as the first of the snowflakes began to fall. And a cloak of white covered the land. She was content. The land was beautiful, and so was she, but she was old. It was time to rest. And while everything was white and gleaming, and the moon rose high in the sky, making everything like daylight, she found a quiet glen, and into that glen she hid in a dark cave and waited for the spring. And while she waited, she dreamt. She dreamt of what the world would be like when the green came once more and the creatures inhabited the land and the people who would walk this earth would come bringing their power. And she sleeps there still, and she's waiting for somebody to find that cave, to ask questions, and for the snow to melt, and for the world to be made anew. And the Cailleach, her soul is still in the land. All you need to do is go and listen.
Thank you. Was it?
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for letting me share. The Cailleach is so important to me. Yeah, I mean, I feel her spirit, especially in winter, I think. It's one of the oldest traditions actually in Scotland is there is a glen, Glen Lyon, we're just off the side of Glen Lyon, there's a small glen where there is a little shrine to the Cailleach. And on the spring and the autumn equinox, the Cailleach and her family are brought out and they stay out for the summer and they go back in to wherever they go to in the winter time. And it's one of the oldest traditions that people know that happens. So if you go up before the spring equinox, there will be no Cailleach, the stones that represent her. But if you go up after the equinox, she'll be there.
Wow. Do you mean literal stones
Literal
coming?
stones, yeah, yeah. I haven't made it up because it's quite a hike to get up to the shrine. I set off one day, but it was late. It was almost the autumn equinox, and it was late in the day before I set off, and it was growing dark before I even got halfway. So I've always promised myself I will go back. And I'm feeling that, yeah, next year, the spring equinox seems like a good time to maybe make that journey.
Mm. Do you feel comfortable sharing more about when you say you feel her spirit? I mean, I would, again, it's maybe very, very personal to share, but do you feel comfortable sharing more about what that feels like for you or how you experience it or
I guess for me, the Cailleach is the bones of the land. I mean, she was the one that created Scotland, created the land that we are standing on here. And for me, when I feel down into the earth, I guess it's almost like feeling this slow, strong, steady heartbeat of the world. So yeah, I guess that's where that comes from, and it's knowing that through deep time we are connected, and while things change, they also not stay the same, but stay grounded.
maybe that's reminding me of what I was saying at the very beginning of our conversation when I was saying that, remember I was saying, I was just saying, when I hear you talking, I feel down into the earth of Scotland, like literal the land of Scotland. It's like rising back up and feeling it in my body. I wonder if it's,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think for me, I am very much a creature of the earth, and I know that I am. I have aspirations of being able to take off into the stars or sort of diving into the waters, but for me, I am very much a creature of the earth, and for me, the Cailleach is that representation of the earth. She is the ultimate earth goddess. So yeah, I think that is where I have that connection, and whenever I feel like life isn't going the way that I need it to, or that I'm feeling I need to be more or do something different, all these shoulds that come into our lives about how we should show up in the world, what we should be doing, the Cailleach reminds me that actually just being is the most important thing.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to attune, attune to my own experience of what I'm feeling here and I'm trying to like match what I'm feeling with the words you're using and trying to understand if it's a similar thing. But when I it's like when I go down into the actual earth, the actual land of Scotland, it's like I know, the human sort of like lineage
Yeah.
name, there's like the Picts and the whatever and the whatever. And but it's like if I go into the time before even the Picts or any, it's like I want to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I feel this energy that is so profound and so deep. It's it's maybe as humans were very first coming to the
Yeah.
land. Before probably we have a name for those people or
Yeah,
even
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's for me. I mean, I used to work in a Pictish heritage centre, so yeah, the last couple of thousand years, fine. But I think deep time is where a lot of our connection stems from. That's where our old knowledge and our old wisdom comes from, and in some ways, the layers that we've had since then have suppressed it. And I think digging down into that earth is feeling that bedrock of where we were, where we came from, where our rootedness comes from. And it helps me to strip off the layers of all the stuff that's come since then. Yeah, so I think that the Cailleach's a representation of that. But then she was coming into a land that was covered in sea, but there was land under the sea. So it's kind of going, okay, well, what came before? And maybe that's something else to examine. I just came across earlier today, actually, a story that I'd been working on a few years ago, actually, when I was visiting Glen Lyon, and where the Cailleach supposedly had her home, or has her home. And I'd been listening to a book on extinctions, so animal extinctions and so on that have gone on over the years. And I'd also been reading a paper that had been exploring the Great Wood of Caledon. So this idea that Scotland used to be covered in an enormous wood. Now, if you come to Scotland today, we have around 20% tree cover, but most of that is forestry plantations. Most of our ancient woods have gone. We have semi-native woodlands in places, but it only accounts for about around 1% of the land area of Scotland. So we have lost so much of our woods. But this idea of the Great Wood of Caledon, one thing that I was investigating was actually, it was before the last ice age. So the last ice age ended 13,000 years ago. But before then, we had woodlands in Scotland. We had creatures like rhinoceros, like mammoths, like aurochs, all these creatures that were ancient and now no longer exist anywhere in the world. But they did walk the lands, they stood on the rocks, they were of place. And I think I was just sort of feeling into that. And I'd come across a fragment of a story. And that's the thing, so many of our ancient stories, they are just fragments. But the land itself was lush. There was this enormous wood that the aurochs and the mammoths and the rhinoceros would wander through, open up clearings, allow more plants to spring up and so on. And it was a place of richness. And the ancient peoples talked of it as being the golden age. It was that golden age where we were connected to everything. And the world was so full and rich and alive. And then there was this change. Now there are so many stories about why this change happened and when it happened and so on. But for me, it started with those snows and that idea of the winter coming and that early snowfall that took everybody by surprise before the harvests even came in. And the following year, the land was cold and wet and nothing would grow. And then the snows came even earlier. And then in midsummer, they didn't melt. So you had these patches of snow on the land. And you ended up with the building up of the snow year after year until we had an ice age. And so much of the land was covered in ice. And the people were in, at that point, hell, because it was this frozen world. And it's so interesting to me, our stories sort of that we often tell in religion these days about heaven and hell and what that would look like, whether it's hot or cold, has changed over time due to people's perceptions of things. So ancient people 10,000 years ago, for them, hell was ice because it was cold and it stopped everything from growing and so on. And it took us away from this golden age in the past. And one of the stories that there are versions of everywhere around the world are when that ice melted. It didn't do it over hundreds of years. It did it perhaps even over a single season. It might have taken a few years, but it might just have been over a single season. And when it flooded everything and it washed all the plants and the animals and the people and everything away. And as the floodwaters came, one man, Fintan MacBuchra, got washed into the waters and out to sea where he sank to the bottom of the sea and perhaps found a cave. But as he sank, he turned into a fish, a silver and pink fish. And he dived down, 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 and he learnt to read the ocean currents. He learnt to understand the movement of the waters. He could taste the change of the seasons and so on. And he learnt the wisdom of the ocean itself, the heartbeat of the earth hiding under that water. And he learnt as much as he could. And when he tasted the change that meant that the sun was high again, he swam. And he swam and he swam until he came to a river that led inland once more. And he came to the land that was bare, and the people that were there knew nothing. They didn't remember the time before, but he walked on the land amongst them, and he taught them about what it was like in the Golden Age. He taught them about the oceans. He taught them everything that he could. And he became their leader for many, many years. And from those days onward, people had always worshipped the salmon because they were the ones that carried the wisdom with them.
Incredible.
So yeah, we have stories and we have fragments of stories that I think for me, the more people that can find these stories and tell these stories and tell what is alive for them in those stories, I think is so important. And I know over the last few hundred years, I mean, we could get into the whole history of folklore and yeah, the collection of stories. So we had this movement in Scotland in the mid 1800s where people would go out and collect stories. So we had a time that again was transitioning, as your great grandfather would have discovered. Cailleach was being lost. People were being driven from the land. Life was changing. We had the fencing in of the land. We had to change in our relationship with place. And at that point, it was mostly ministers, educated men who would go out to the islands and they would listen to stories and they would write them down. And it was a way of preserving these stories. And for some of the stories, it's the only way that we know that they happened. However, as soon as you take a story from the heart or from the mind, it changes. It becomes something different. You're pinning it to the page. It's no longer something that's alive. And for me, books and stories are fantastic. And I have many, many books of folklore and so on, but they're only a starting point. They don't have the heart of the story in them. We all have to find our own heart within the stories.
And the experience of for me, like in this moment of being with you as you are being the story is completely different experience than reading it on a page, of course,
Yeah.
right? Mm.
Yes, I mean, for me, it's very much a case of channeling the story. It's about what needs to be alive in the moment. I mean, I know kind of where we have this idea of this red thread that connects all of us, and there are many stories of red threads that connect us all. But there's the red thread of the story as well. I know where it's going to start and I know where it's going to finish, perhaps, although not always. And we go on a journey together. We follow that thread and see where it takes us, and it takes us somewhere different all the time. And I think that is also really important. And just going back to winter, I think winter is such an important season. It's where things are planted. I came across a little bag of bulbs that my one of my children had given me, and I'd forgotten about it. It was just sitting in this bag, and I took them out and went, "Oh yeah." And winter is the season that the bulbs and the seeds and potential in whatever way sits in the ground. It's rooted, it's grounded, it takes on that energy, the Cailleach energy. And we need that in the world. We need that time to be still and to be focused and to be centered and to listen to what the darkness, in some ways, what this underground, inner ground place is telling us. It's about going within. I think I mentioned to you earlier this idea of I love winter because I love being wrapped in darkness. I don't like the cold. I'm very much a summer baby. I love being out in the sunshine in the summer and under the green leaves of the trees. But one thing that I really love about winter is the darkness. I will quite often go for a walk at midnight under the moon just so that I can feel like it's shrouding me, it's holding me, and that I can feel like I'm being held. And winter is that season that holds us. It doesn't expect anything of us. We don't have to be doing anything. We just have to be and to take what we need from that moment.
Yeah. I'm feeling two things. I want to come back to that and just want to also pick up a thread from a minute ago,
Yeah.
um, before we come back to this. So what part of what I'm personally feeling as you're telling, as we're being with the Cailleach story and the second one,
Mm.
the salmon, it's like I literally felt myself following a thread down, 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 boom, like down into the center of the earth. And um, so it's like human words, how to put this in human words. What I'm really feeling is when we think about this time that was quote unquote lost and all of it,
Mm.
part of what I think is true is that we have the ability to remember it because we are it, we were it. It is us, literally. And
Yeah.
so, for example, for me, like I was saying earlier, when I take myself to the land of Scotland and I go down, 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 I find it's like I can go through layers of time and
Mm.
like let's say the picks are kind of about here-ish. And the energy of that Pictish time, not that I know that much about it, but feels kind of almost distracting. It's like the energy is a little and then but I'm like, that's not where I'm supposed to set me. That's not where I'm supposed to settle my attention. It keeps going down, 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 like earlier, 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 and deeper, 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 deeper until I think from what you're describing, I think it's the Cailleach energy, or maybe it's just the earth, maybe it's just Gaia. I don't know. It's something very deep, very primal, if you want to call it that. And then what I felt is that once once I find once we find that deep kind of origin anchor place, that feels to me like it then, this could be just me, but I don't think so. I think maybe this is a more universal-ish thing. Then as you are going into the story of like the salmon and the more ancient time, I feel once I kind of click with that Cailleach energy, it then with the support of your words and your way of being with it, then it like helps me sort of catapult into the remembering of going backward. Is
Yeah.
this making any sense? It's really hard to put into words.
It's really hard to put into words, and I think that's why I think oral storytelling is so valuable because yeah, we are putting it into words, but we're also feeling it more than anything else. It's that feeling, that connection, and yeah, it is. It's about finding your own route and going into the story and the shape of the story. It's not about the words itself, but it's about bringing us down to wherever we're meant to be. And yeah, I like the idea of almost catapulting us back out into actually it's a new way of being. Every time you hear a story, we are changed slightly. We go down into the roots of what make us us and connect us with the world, but also we are renewed as part of that experience. And I think that's a very important concept as well. And one of the reasons that I like telling stories and listening to stories is because I am changed, but I am also well, I am renewed. I'm not changed. I'm renewed. I'm taken back down to those roots, and find that in some ways it's about stripping back those layers. As you say, it's going back through those layers. It's about finding the heart of who we are and how we can show up in the world and so on. So yeah, I think you're right. It's something that is universal, but not everybody's open to understanding that.
Right. And it feels like in this time that we're in, this is part of the opportunity for us to remember what is innate to us.
Mhm.
Because I think there can be this narrative of, oh, like, oh shoot, like a grief, a very understandable grief that we've lost this history or we've lost these stories. But I think the bigger reality is that's true, and we are it, right?
Yeah,
So if we are able to, if we stay in our rational brain, logical thinking, linear thinking, yeah, then okay, quote unquote, we've lost it. We don't have books that have written it down from, 13,000 years ago or whatever. But uh but that's one way of perceiving things. A way much, much, much more true, complete, and powerful way of perceiving is our entire being, because our being absolutely knows it. Like
yeah,
we are.
no, absolutely. We
Yeah.
do know it. We have it. I mean, we are the mountains in our bones and the ocean in our blood. We are all these things, and we have that connection back through deep time. All life is connected. And for me personally, that is the most important thing. Life to me is the most important thing, and we are it. We are part of life in whatever way, shape, or form. And yes, diversity in all its forms is the best thing for life, but we are part of that and we hold that. So yeah, I mourn the woolly rhinoceros that might have wandered through Scotland in the past, but also it's part of me in whatever way, because yeah, there's all sorts of ways of knowing. We discussed this last time, sort of scientific ways of knowing as well. But yeah, I mean, everything that exists has always existed. We have always existed in one form or another, and we will always exist. And these things have always existed and will always exist. So yeah, we are everything, and we are one part of this amazing world, this amazing whole, this universe, this infinite place that we call home.
Yeah. And just even on a linear level, at least scientifically, we believe that the Earth, the sun, the Earth, the moon are all 4.5 billion years old. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a long time.
It is a long time. Yeah, I mean that it is a long time. And for humans, I mean our lifespans are not that long, really. But I think we can feel that idea of deep time. I mean, we are. I noticed earlier I was wearing a top that's got butterflies on it, and butterflies live for such a short amount of time. But again, they're part of it, and they're part of. They don't die. I mean, they die, but they still are part of everything. Everything has these cycles. And yeah, the Earth might be 4.5 billion years, and it has changed so much in that time. It has been renewed, rebirthed, changed, and it will continue until it gets swallowed by the sun, and then who knows what happens. But hey,
We'll find out.
we're yeah. Well, I was going to say we're not going to be around. Some aspect of us is going to be around. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll find out what happens then.
A new adventure.
A new adventure. Yeah.
Um, yeah, well, okay. And then just to bring it back to the winter part,
Yeah.
yeah, before we started recording, you were describing what it's like in your part of Scotland. You're near Aberdeen, so in uh
Yeah,
north.
northeast Scotland, and yeah, I mean, I have to say, northeast Scotland it's a wonderful area. It's got fertile soils. It used to have a lot of woodlands and so on. We get more than average sunshine here in terms of the summer, so we don't get a lot of rain in the scheme of things. And in the summer, I mean, we said this sort of summer in Scotland is just amazing. It gets light around, well, 3, 4 in the morning, and it stays light until midnight. But But in winter, we have the inverse of that, and it gets dark. And some days it feels like it never fully gets light. I mean, it does, and the sun does always rise. But days where there's low cloud and it can just be a really dark, dark day. And even on clear days, the sun doesn't rise until 8:30 in the morning, and then by the time it gets to 3 in the afternoon, it's gone again, and it feels the sunlight feels so fragile in some ways, but we know that it's not. And ancient peoples knew that it wasn't. I mentioned this last time I was on having a chat with you about the number of stone circles around here. And maybe that's something we could pick up on another conversation, because we have so many stone circles that are aligned for the seasons and the sun and the moon, and the position of the stars and so on. And this is ancient knowledge that people had and knew was important enough to build these stone circles and to have marker stones highlighting our connection and our understanding of place, and our place in the universe, and that awareness of the wider universe as well, I think. And I try and visit some of the stone circles on the equinoxes and solstices as well, because I think it's an important place to be, to honor our ancestors and to honor this connection that we all have. Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember. There's about half a dozen stone circles within a 10-minute drive from here. So it is a very rich place for monuments, altars that we have built in the past that celebrated our connection. And one thing that we perhaps don't do so much these days in our societies is honor that connection. We do it in different ways, but we have lost some of the knowledge and the technology, perhaps, of making these structures that are covering our landscape. But I think going down and rooting ourselves and just taking that time to remember, that we are Earth, we are Earth, we are ocean, we are universe.
Mm, amazing. Yeah. And yeah, and again, of course we can do that at any time of year, but it does, I am feeling how possibly one of the gifts of winter and darkness is that quiet stillness where maybe we're able to hear even more deeply or be present even or in a what I don't want to say it's better. I don't say it's
No, it's just different. Yeah. I
yeah.
think it is that difference. It's that opportunity. I think it's the time that the earth herself encourages us to slow down, to stop, to listen to those sounds of silence, that deep, slow heartbeat that is connecting us all.
Yeah. Is there any last thing you want to say or any thread of something wanting to come through before we close?
I think just for me, as we enter the winter and this season, it's good for me to remember that time to rest and to be still is one of the most important things. And yeah, so often we feel we have to be doing things, we have to be productive, we have to be living our lives in whatever way. In winter, as I said, it's that time to go, actually, just to sit,
Mm,
to be is enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, I would love to have a conversation about stone circles and so many other things. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will. Yeah, I used to, as I said, used to work at a Pictish Heritage Centre, and I came across some of the. We had a wall with all the Pictish symbols, all the stone carvings and so on, because so many of our stones in Scotland are carved with these amazing images of different creatures or different types of knotwork and so on, and they all have their different meanings. So yeah, I'd love to dive into that at some point, but that's definitely a bigger topic.
please, 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 definitely. right. And it touches on so many things in me. Yeah, it's just there's stone circles, and then there's also the beings of the rocks, which is maybe two separate topics, but I'm guessing they kind of go together. I mean, anyway, for me, when I have been in Scotland, specifically, especially in the Oban area and then on the
Mm.
island where my family's from, I cannot even describe. Literally, the rocks were talking to me. And they talk to me the whole constant. It's like a constant beep 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 beep. They don't stop. And that's the only place on the planet that happens for me is like, wow. Wow, you're
Oh.
such they are anyway, they're very alive.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing place, and yeah, again, lots of stone circles and cup and ring marks there as well that were made by ancient peoples on the rocks. So lots of connection to look at.
Say that say that phrase again. What did you say? The what marks?
Cup and ring marks, they're called. So it's a spiral design that is etched onto many of the rocks in that region.
I can. I didn't know that that's what they're called. Wow. Okay, so to be continued because
To be continued.
wow. Okay, I cannot wait for this conversation. Awesome.
No, it's wonderful to see you again, Martha, and I'm very grateful for being able to share a couple of stories with you and have this conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And please tell people where they can find you, how they can, anything you want to share about what you do, and
Oh gosh, yeah, I do many different things. I work on lots of projects, but yeah, really connecting people to story and to our environment in all sorts of different ways. I can be found at carasilversmith.com or onenatureeducation.com. And feel free to email me at cara@onenatureeducation.com. I'm also on social media, but I am terrible at posting on it because, yeah, I'm busy doing other things.
then you have the podcast.
Oh, and the podcast, yeah, I mentioned it at the beginning. So, What of the Ground We Are Standing On with amazing German storyteller Catriona Blank. And we are hopefully, I haven't, yeah, Kat and I are hopefully going to have a chat again soon. I would love to record more episodes because it's been a little while since we put an episode out there. But yeah, I would urge people go back and listen to our old episodes. They're all about story and how they are connected to this ground that we are all standing on.
Yeah, and I will put all those links here with the video, and also I will put a link to the episode in your podcast where you interviewed me.
Yeah, amazing.
Still stands as one of my favorite conversations ever in my whole entire life.
Amazing. Yeah.
I
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, the synergy in that conversation I think was incredible.
yeah, just yeah. I will put the link specifically to that conversation. Yeah, highly recommend everybody listen to that one. Wow. Anyway, um, okay. Well, thank you so much, Cara, and we will do this again soon.
Yeah, no, thank you, Martha. Really appreciate it.
Mm. And I would love for everybody to share here with us, yeah, what is coming alive for you? What are you feeling as you're being with all of this?
Mm.
Um, maybe there are, depending on where you are in the world. I know actually a lot of you are in Scotland or in the UK in general, and yeah, we all have these kind of energies we are connected with all around the globe, and yeah, just
Yeah.
share whatever is.
I'd be really curious to know what winter, the concept of winter means to people. So yeah,
Yeah,
would be
great question.
wonderful to hear.
Yay. Okay. See you all very soon.
Bye.